Taking a break from book videos today, we're going to talk about motherhood. Hi everyone, I'm here today to talk about 5 things that I've learned about motherhood, and the reason I'm uploading this video now is because my little baby has just reached his first birthday. I also have an older daughter who is 6, and along these past few years it has been a journey and I have learned so much. So these are things that apply to me, my personal journey, and the things that I have learned from my children, and I appreciate that everybody's parenting journey is completely different and everybody has different children, but these are the things that apply to me and things that I think are important for other people to know. So point number 1 is something that I have learned spectacularly in the past year, is that every single baby is different. My first baby, my daughter, it was a complete different kettle of fish to my second baby, my son. And they are just like night and day, and I thought I had it all sorted. My daughter never once went in cupboards and pulled things out, or never tried to climb the stairs, and she was very placid, and the terrible twos never happened. I would see other people with their children having meltdowns on the floor, and me and my daughter would go for sushi, and we would sit nicely and she would try and use the chopsticks, and we would sit and we would have a lovely time. And then I had my son and I assumed it would all happen again. Nope. He is completely different. At 6 weeks old, I tried to fasten him in his car seat, and he gripped his fists together and screamed and shook in rage, and I was taken aback. I had never seen anything like this before. As I said, my daughter was absolutely impeccably behaved, and I was so smug. I'm not even ashamed to admit it now. I was so smug. I thought that I had parenting down. I thought that I had it all sorted, you know. But then my son has come along, and he's been raised exactly the same as my daughter was thus far. He's only a year old now, but he's a complete different child. I take him places, he just won't have it. You put him in the baby seat, he's kicking off, he's trying to climb out, he's throwing things. You give him a spoon, he'll just throw it. If he doesn't want whatever food you've given him, he wings it, he doesn't care, he just throws it anywhere. He tries to climb the stairs, he goes in all of my cupboards, he pulls everything out. He has tantrums, he throws himself on the floor. You pick him from the stairs to stop him going up the stairs, which he insists on trying to do. Anything that's dangerous, he wants involved. So he tries to go up the stairs, you pick him up, he screams and tenses himself up. You put him in the car seat, he doesn't want to go in, he screams, you take him baby group, he throws things. And now I feel really stupid for all the times I thought that I had everything sorted and I thought I had this motherhood thing cracked. And I see people, I do see people when I'm out and about and my son's kicking off and I'm sitting in a cafe and I'm trying to have a bit of cake and he's going crazy, and I see people looking, and I just think, yeah, well, you know, one day this could be you. And that has been a huge learning curve for me. Not every baby is the same, and no matter what you do, their personality shines through. And my son's obviously a bit of a hothead, so never assume that you've got this all cracked, because you might not if the next one comes along and he or she's a bit of a terror. Number 2, everybody wants to give you advice, and it starts from the moment that you start to show your pregnant stomach. As soon as you can see that through your tops or whatever you're wearing, people instantly descend, and it's unreal, the amount of unsolicited advice that you get given. For example, when my daughter was a baby and we were in a cafe, and she must have been about 10 months old, and she was having some avocado and some blueberries and some crayfish, and I'd given her a fork. Now, a man came over, without speaking to me, took the fork from my daughter and gave her a spoon, turned to me and said, "That's a bit dangerous, giving her a fork." I don't know where the hell this man got off on, thinking that he could tell me whether my daughter could use a fork. I was absolutely livid. But because I didn't want to make a fuss in public, I would now, but because at the time I didn't want to make a fuss in public, I said nothing and just sort of was a bit shocked and a little bit taken aback, because I was a new mum, and I have countless stories like that where people have really overstepped the mark, and it is just, second time round I've got the confidence to tell people where to sling their hook and where to shove their advice, basically. But for people who aren't quite so in your face and confrontational with you, for the people who are just sort of vague friends, vague relatives, people who just want to give you all of their advice that they know, just take it with a pinch of salt. And the best way to sort of handle it is to just go, "Oh, right, okay, thank you," and then move on and do what you were doing anyway. Number 3, the amount of people who are obsessed when you have a new baby with, is your baby sleeping yet? Is your baby sleeping through the night? How many feeds is your baby having through the night? Are they sleeping? Are they sleeping? Are they sleeping? Telling you, oh, you must never let them sleep in your bed. Oh, never do that. No, no. If you let them go in your bed, you'll never get them out. They will never learn to sleep without you. Don't pick up your baby for cuddles. You're going to spoil your baby. You're going to spoil your baby with love. I'm going to tell you now that that is absolute crap. And it is one thing that really offends me and one thing that I don't stand for now. And it's one thing that I've always said to everybody, that I will do what I want to do. If I want to snuggle and hug my baby when my baby is upset and wanting to cry, I will do that, and I have done that. My daughter has her own bedroom. She sleeps like the dead. She's quite happy in her own bed, and funnily enough, I did get her out of my bed and she did go in her own bedroom, but I didn't go through all of that sleep training and all of that. I'm going to force you to cry and leave you alone, and it is something that I will never apologise for not doing. It's not for me. Everyone tried to force upon me the Contented Little Baby book by Gina Ford, and that book is awful. And I don't like the idea of locking them in a room and leaving them to cry. So if you have a baby and you feel that it goes against your maternal instinct to put that baby down and leave it to cry, then for goodness sake, don't do it. Don't be forced into doing something that you don't think is right for you. If you decide you want to do sleep training, you do it. That is your child, and it is not up to me to tell you what to do with your child. The only book that I did read about parenting that I actually resonated with, because it was recommended to me by a really lovely woman that I met at the baby group when I first had my daughter, and it's this one, The Baby Book by Dr. William Sears and Martha Sears. Now, this is a book about attachment parenting, and it talks about how to baby wear, breastfeeding, and it talks about all sorts of things that you might need to know, and basically just developing a bond with your baby. And I found that book invaluable in sort of helping me realise that my feelings about putting my baby down and leaving it, or my feelings about everybody trying to force me to get my baby to sleep through and all this sort of thing, it wasn't natural to me and it wasn't my parenting style. Again, if it is your parenting style and that is what you choose to do, that is your child. And as I said earlier, you know your child better than anyone else. And if that works best for your child, it does. But for me, it doesn't work. And for me as a person and for my children, it doesn't work. And I'm not sorry for that. And I don't think that any of you should be sorry for it either. If you feel like you're being pushed by other people, stick strong to what you think. If that is sleep training, go for it. If it's not sleep training, don't be pushed into it. And that was point number 3. Number 4, the hardest part of parenting for me so far is the first year. And my daughter is 6 now, so I don't know what the teenage years hold for me. I'm assuming it's going to be a treat. The hardest part is the first year, where you are, especially the first few weeks, where you are just, your whole world is ripped apart. You are ripped apart, and there's a good chance you are literally ripped apart. I know I was. Your life has changed. Your life has changed so much, and you're getting no sleep. And if you're breastfeeding as well, which I was, you have a small child latching onto you, which can be a bit painful until you figure out what you're doing and until you get your latch right. You can get things like mastitis, and you've got all of this, and you're responsible for this tiny little being who you love so much, and you just, it's a lot. It is a lot to take in, and you just need a sort of a good support network. You need a good outlet where you can relax and just be yourself for a bit, because being a mum can become all encompassing, and sometimes a few days go by where I realise I haven't done anything for me. I haven't read a book, I haven't done anything for me. And sometimes you do need that little bit of just stepping back, have a bath, step back, take 10 minutes to have a shower. I used to put my baby in a baby rocker with sort of soothing sound. So I would feed my baby, put them in a baby rocker, and then take the baby rocker into the bathroom with me and have a little bath, and the baby would sleep. And for that sort of 45 minutes of the baby being asleep with the soothing sort of lullaby sounds of the rocker, and just being able to sit in a bath and just relax, those 45 minutes were magical before the madness of early motherhood sets in again. Because normally, if you've been through a traumatic event where your genitals are ripped apart, your boobs are on fire, you feel like you've been hit by a truck and you've had no sleep, you would need a good week in bed just lying there recovering. But you don't get that when you've got a new baby, and I think a lot of people just forget just how hard it is, that you've been through such a lot and you need to heal. And that first year where your baby just isn't quite sleeping right, and you're learning, and your baby's going through such a lot of developmental milestones. Suddenly they're crawling, you're doing crawling, you're doing weaning, you're doing the baby's starting to try and walk, your baby's bumping its head off things, you've got to try and maintain a social life, and it's hard. And the first year is definitely the hardest. I'm coming out of my second time round of doing the first year, and I will say the second time round it was much easier because I sort of knew what was coming, but it was still hard. But it's also very worth it, and you've got this lovely little baby who's dependent on you, and it's a magical time as well as being a difficult time. And I have loved the first year of both my children's lives, but I've also been exhausted and a little bit emotional, a little bit strung out, and it is a lot. But the first year does pass, and if you are currently in it, and if you're sitting there in clothes that you've had on for 3 days, and you've got vomit stains down the front of it, and you've got some food, and you've got breast milk all over yourself, or whatever, or bottle milk, whatever you're feeding your baby, and you're just sitting there and you're just thinking, oh, where's my life gone? It'll be okay. You will get through it. The first year passes, and these little people that you've loved through it, you get to watch them grow. And it's just absolutely fantastic. And eventually, you know, the housework can wait. The feeling like you can get yourself dressed up and go out again, it can wait, because it does come back. Number 5, mum guilt. Oh, mum guilt is real. It was something I wasn't prepared for. So in the early days where I would let my husband take my daughter for a little push around the block in a pram while I had a wash, or I just tried to have a little bit of time reading or try to do anything for myself, I used to feel such guilt, and I would watch her go out the door and I would feel anxious, and I didn't want her to go out without me, and I would feel really bad, and he would assure me everything's fine, you know, I can manage this, I've got this for 40 minutes, you're fine. And I would feel guilty, and I would sit in my bath and I wouldn't enjoy it because I would feel like I was letting my daughter down, and that was something I wasn't prepared for. And it was something I had to work through. I did eventually work through it, and second time round I've been a lot more relaxed about these sort of things, but I still do get mum guilt. There are days that have just been sort of a series of unfortunate events, everything's gone wrong, the evening meal hasn't gone to plan, something's gone wrong, and there's been times where I have gone, yeah, do you know what, let's just go to a cafe, and just gone to a cafe and got some food. And I feel guilty, and I know that sometimes things don't go to plan, and sometimes you just need to take a time out, and yeah, it might not be the plan that you originally had in mind for today, but mum guilt is real. Or it might be the fact that you've got to go back to work and you're feeling so guilty because you have to leave your child, but you have to go back to work. Or you might be doing a bit of work in the house and your child wants to play, but you can't play because you really have this deadline that you've got to do. Or another mum at the school gates might have enrolled her child in 20 different activities and you haven't, and so you get the guilt. Is your child going to be at a disadvantage? Or Facebook's a nightmare for it, because you see all these people posting these pictures of, this is my child's Christmas presents, and they've spent $6,000 on all of these million things, and you can't afford $6,000 on all these presents, so you get mum guilt. And I find that things like social media and sometimes mum bloggers, they can make things seem a lot more rosy than they actually are. They sort of put forward an image that probably isn't 100% truthful, and it can make you feel such guilt. And I'm now starting to know that I should maybe just let go of mum guilt, and I just try and think, you know, I'm doing the best for my children and I love them unconditionally, but know that other people are feeling it, and that everyone's life isn't as rosy as they're making out, and just try and relax. As long as you know that you're doing the very best that you can, then that's all that matters, and that is the important thing. And as long as you love your children and you treat them with respect and kindness, that's all they need. And yeah, so those are the top 5 things that I have learned in my sort of 6 years experience, as it were. And I'd love to know what your parent journeys have been. Are there things that you have learned that you would like to pass on to others? Have you experienced any of these things yourself, such as the unwarranted advice and people being overly rude and trying to force opinions down your throat that aren't your opinion? Do let me know in the comments down below, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye for now.